Hi there, and good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is where you are. Thank you for tuning in. I am Shauna K. Lester, and I am the founder of Memorable Essay and the creator of the IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator. In the IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator, I support ambitious international medical graduates to help them to create an application the best possible odds of matching. I think everybody, wherever you are in the world right now, there is a lot going on in the world and in our personal lives. And I really just want to extend to persons, especially to international medical graduates facing, the various pandemics of the world, and also thinking about your application. I really to extend to you, I guess, a spirit of understanding. Clearly, I'm talking with IMGs day in and day out. And I know that there are persons who you have not completed your USMLE exams, and so especially around Step 2 CK or around any of your remaining exams, there might be some nervousness about how exactly is this all going to work. Even for persons who are already ECFMG certified, there are these uncertainties about, what will the landscape of the match process look like this year? And then what will that mean for you and your chances of success, right? So these feelings of nervousness are definitely normal of uncertainty. And so I just want to congratulate you for continuing to move forward despite these feelings of uncertainty, despite not knowing what is going to happen. I want to congratulate you on continuing to show up for yourself and continuing to move forward with your application. And just to encourage you that actually these movements forward, one step at a time, are going to add up to the result that you are looking for in this year's match, in next year's match. So definitely just keep moving ahead. So today I wanted to talk about basically the one reason that your application will not help you to match, no matter how long and hard you're working at it, if you're missing a certain key component. And this is going to be extremely important. So, if you're watching this live, great. If you're watching it on the replay, thank you for watching. And definitely do share with someone who needs to hear this message. And so what we are going to start with talking about is how you normally approach this process as an IMG. So I work with a lot of IMG, specifically a lot of foreign medical graduates. You get your step exams out of the way, you get your token, and it's time to work on your written application. And a lot of individuals will probably just kind of take a look, you survey what you need to do. All right, I need to do a personal statement, I need to do a CV, I need to get some letters of recommendation. What most persons do is that they go ahead and they request these letters of recommendation so that the persons can go on writing the letters of recommendation while you, the candidate, are working on your personal statement or you're working on your CV. That's the thought process. The persons who are writing your some of them might say to you, hey, could you provide me with a CV? Some individuals, you give them your CV as it is, or some persons might think, okay, this CV needs to be brushed up a little bit. You take your time, you brush up the CV, you give them the CV so they can go ahead and, write the best possible letters that they can, while you take yourself over here and you work on your application. You complete your personal statement, you complete your CV, you request your MSPE, you do all of those other things. Some of you are still doing rotations. You're going to be doing them August, September, maybe even into October this year. You're getting all of that done. What is missing from this process, right? And the one reason that your application is not going to help you match when you're just thinking about your process like that, and this is especially for individuals who are quite average in the other things that you bring to the table, is that you are missing an application strategy. What by having an application strategy? It means that your entire application process needs to go in a particular direction, and then the application itself that you're working on needs to go in a particular direction based on where you are going, based on what you bring to the table. The reason for that is, as you know, as an IMG, you have a 50-50 chance of matching or not matching, 60%, if it's a good year. But what you're looking at is that half of the IMG pool will not match, will not be successful in their match attempt. The other half will be, and you want to make sure that you find yourself in the half that will make you happiest, right? That will help you to move forward with your career. Nobody feels stagnant in life. Nobody likes to feel like they're not progressing in their career. And so you are trying to move forward, and you want to make sure that you find yourself in the 50% that matches, and hopefully also the the group of people who are going to match into a program that they love, in a city that they love, and not to feel like you are in a sort of last resort position, right? So you want to have a strategy. You need to have a strategy, because otherwise your process is just some sort of hodgepodge thing that you pull together. And I like to compare it to talking about when you're going out on a trip, right? Chances are, if you're driving to a different city, to a different state, you can just get in your car. You've never been there before. You don't know where you're going. You can just sort of get in your car and hope that you'll ask people along the way. It might or it might not work, right? Because there might be sorts of ditches and turnoffs that you never knew about, that you might never get to your destination. And that could have been prevented if you had just had a plan in the beginning based on what you know and based on where you're trying to go. You can also think of it similarly to building a house, right? That's one of my favorite analogies, because with houses, you have to be so careful. These projects can cost you millions of extra dollars, all because you weren't strategic in terms of thinking, where are we now? What does the final product need to look like, and why? And how can I take very intentional steps to get that kind of application that I need, right? So someone who comes in with a completely perfect transcript and profile, a senior, but like a senior in your program at an offshore school, or a recent graduate if you are from a publicly owned medical school somewhere else in the world. You have all your ducks in a row, no late year of graduation, amazing scores. You're in a pretty good position. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't still put effort into your application, but you're in a pretty good position. Somebody who's coming in with these late years of graduation, these average step scores sort of situation, you need more than anyone else to be very, very strategic about what you are doing, right? So your entire application process needs a strategy, but your written application itself, it needs a strategy. It needs to take who you are, what you bring to the table, what you do not bring to the table that is needed at the table, and how you are going to create the sort of application that gets you the match result that you need, given all of your strengths and given all of your weaknesses and given all of the things that are working against you. That's how you want to start, by creating an application versus doing these random sort of, application pulled together processes and hoping that it works for you. What does it really mean to get strategic about your application, though? We're going to talk about a very important component of that. And I think that it's very easy in 2020 for you to know what I'm talking about when you think of the topic of personal branding, right? That's probably something you hear being thrown around the place, or you're familiar with the idea of, people having a personal brand. There's an influencer on Instagram. There's somebody who you follow because of a personal brand, because of things that they say that you like, you learn from, you're into them, you're a part of their community, right? You can also think of it in terms of just like products and services that you use them for a particular reason. If you're somebody who eats fast food, you consume fast food, you might eat Kentucky Fried Chicken, and you know that you're going to KFC because you want chicken. You don't step into KFC expecting to find a wide array of burgers or a wide choice and diverse selection of donuts. You go to KFC because when you go, you're going to get chicken, and normally you're going to get a certain flavor or spice kind of chicken, right? You're going to get a particular chicken. This is what it is known for. In medicine, when you're working with persons who are older than you, with senior residents, with consultants, with attendings, that person has a brand, right? In terms of how people talk about them. You know that when you work with this particular attending, you are going to get very close mentorship. This is somebody who's going to pay attention to your growth. They're going to encourage you. They're going to cheer for you. They're going to show you how you can develop. There might be another consultant, another senior resident, another attending who's known for being pretty horrible, right? That's their reputation, but it's also their brand that they're known for. They're known for shouting at people. They're known for being condescending. They're known for putting you on the spot. Persons have a reputation. Persons have a brand, an experience. Persons know that when they get in contact with this person, or when you step into the store, when you step onto this airline, this is the experience that you're going to have. This is how you're going to experience this entity. How you experience somebody really is their brand. What they're known for really is their brand. And so as an ING, you need to think about creating your application and being strategic about it. What is the brand that you are going to develop? What is the message about yourself that you are going to communicate, right? You need to be communicating something, because once you get into choosing a specialty, and I've spoken about this before in great detail because it's very important for persons to understand. Once you get into a specialty, you're looking at a case where there are several people who like the specialty that you like for the same reasons. You are going to find INGs who they want to go into pediatrics because working with children refreshes them, it lights them up. They just don't feel the same way that they do with anyone else as they did when they were in their pediatrics rotation. You're going to find persons who, they just love internal medicine because it's such an intellectual exercise. It's so rigorous. You have to know so much about so much, It's the intellectual specialty. Can you imagine, as a program director, getting 6,000 personal statements all talking about the intellectual rigor of internal medicine? Why they love the breadth of internal medicine. Can you imagine, as a program director or as an assistant program director, receiving 4,000 applications for family medicine, and all of them talk about how enthused they are to pursue family medicine because they can develop these lifelong relationships with their patients from pediatrics until they're adults to geriatric, individuals. It's a lot, right? OBGYN persons, everyone who wants to do OBGYN is, oh my goodness, I finally found a specialty that had the perfect mix of surgery and medicine, and I just love it. These are things that I am reading year after year. I've been reading year after year for 7 years, that individuals who've been doing this for 20 years, 25 years, reading 6,000, receiving 6,000 applications, reading hundreds of applications every year. These are things that they're reading over and over. How will they be able to tell you apart from the next person? What makes you stand out? What do they get when they get you that they don't get when they get another person, right? Outside of these reasons of why you want to pursue this specialty, when you come into this specialty, when you join their residency team, what are they going to get that they will not get when they choose anyone else? You have to be strategic about your residency match application. As an international medical graduate, you need to be strategic about your entire process, and you need to be strategic to put your written application together. And a huge part of how you strategically use your application is to create messaging, is to create a brand for yourself that separates you from other people. What is one of the easiest ways to create this brand, right? There is a method that I use in my clients. It's the caress method. It's a method of writing that helps persons to be memorable. It's something that is tested across very many fields of life, including advertising. And so when I talk about caress, it's a mnemonic, right? That's the word, yes, it's a mnemonic. But one of the A's in caress, in terms of CAA, how we spell it, RESS, stands for anecdote, stands for stories, right? So when I spoke earlier about working with difficult attendings, difficult residents, difficult consultants, chances are when their brand is going around, when their reputation is going around, when people are talking about what it means to experience this person, they are telling stories. telling stories about this one time on word rounds when they weren't prepared and what this person did. Or they are telling stories about that occasion when this individual allowed them to see or do something that would make them grow more or grow faster because this person is more nurturing, more of a mentor. People tell stories about you when you're not in the room, right? There are stories that you can tell about your experience in the specialty of choice that you want to match into. That will form a huge part of your brand. There are stories that you can tell about your life experiences, about your most meaningful life experiences that will be a part of your brand. We refer to this as story branding in the field of communication. Communicating to people what it is like to experience you, the value that they can get from you and only you through the power of story. And so as an international medical graduate, I want you to be strategic about your application, because it doesn't matter how long. It's like driving, right? It's like building that house. It doesn't matter how long you drive. If you do not know where you are going because you don't have a map, because you haven't asked persons and prepared a plan, you probably will never, ever, ever get there. If you don't know what you're building when you're building a house, right? If you don't know all the material that you need, all the money that you need, you probably will die and that house will never, ever, ever be finished. It is the same thing with your application. If you just kind of start out, you just open the documents, you sit somewhere in a coffee shop, knock out this personal statement in a week, in a couple of hours, throw some things together on your CV, you're not really being strategic about that process, and it's something that you will pay for dearly. And it's something that I really hate to see. Actually, it's seeing reapplicants come and now, you're one more year out. Things are, especially this year, things are so much more than they were the year before for you. All because in the beginning, you were not strategic enough about your process and you weren't strategic enough about your application. So you need to bring a level of strategic thinking, a level of strategic management, actually, like strategically managing the process, strategically going about every aspect of the process. You bring that strategy to your application, and in creating that strategy, in being strategic, you need to develop your branding. You need to develop your story brand. You need to develop your messaging. You need to lean heavily on the power of story, on the power of messaging, by using all of the writing tools and all of the communication tools that are available to you. So until next time, until we chat again, which will probably be tomorrow because we're getting into the thick of the match season. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching it on the replay, thank you for tuning in, and also be sure to share with individuals, and to remember, as you open your applications, to not just ask people for letters, any kind of letters. They need to be taking their cue from you, your messaging, from your branding, and all of your application then will be able to fit together as a cohesive whole, because they're really not separate documents. Like, they look like separate documents, or they might have separate sections, but they're not really separate documents. And so you really want your entire application, your LORs, to be strategically woven together to communicate one really strong brand about you, about your unique value, and using like really powerful stories so you have a really powerful story brand. All right, take care, and we will talk again.